Hello, my name is Barbara Meyer. I'm a member of the MLK Junior Committee for Justice. This committee is fully aware of the multiple difficulties the people in our community have been experiencing during this past year. Because I'm a clinical psychologist, I was asked to speak about the toll this year has taken on our physical and emotional health. I've been a clinical psychologist for 40 years, and in the last 15, I spent that working with patients who suffered from trauma, PTSD, and assorted other stress-induced disorders. My patients taught me a lot about how long-term stress affects us. Today, I want to talk with you about the stress we've been living under due to COVID-19. We know that long-term stress has a very negative effect on our physical and our mental well-being. For more than a year, we have been dealing with an extraordinary kind of stress, a life and death kind of stress. Our lives have been upended by a pandemic over which we have no control. This kind of long-term stress can overwhelm our body's abilities to cope. But it is important to understand that our bodies have been made or built to handle stress, everyday kinds of stress, ordinary stress. Most of the time, we manage, we cope, and our health remains intact. Let's take a few minutes to appreciate exactly how our bodies are designed to cope with ordinary stress. Many of us are familiar with the term fight or flight. This term was coined by Dr. Walter Cannon. He was a physiologist who worked in the early 1920s. And he was interested in how the body responds internally when it perceives something dangerous or scary. Essentially, he was studying the brain and the autonomic nervous system, this built into our body system, without which we wouldn't have survived as a species. What happens? Here's what happens. Let's, for a moment, imagine together taking a ride. Come with me in my car for a ride in the country. We're going to my house for dinner. My husband's cooked, so we're happy about that. It's a beautiful day. It's the end of the day. We've got some music on. We're chatting. It's a beautiful ride, and then all of a sudden a deer leaps across in front of our car. What happens? The brain instantly perceives danger and sends a message to the sympathetic part of the nervous system. Adrenaline is dumped directly into our bloodstream. It floods the large muscles to get them ready for action. Other chemicals are dumped that enhance the clotting factor in our blood in case we're hurt and injured. Our pupils dilate to let in as much light as possible so we can assess the situation. Our respirations are high and fast and shallow. We're sweating. Our blood pressure goes up. We go into action. I jam on the brakes. And then I pull over so we can catch our breath. And then our brain kicks in and assesses the situation. And it goes, okay, we didn't hit the deer. We didn't get rear-ended. Nobody was behind us. That's lucky for us. And then the body begins to do what it is supposed to do. The brain says no more danger. It engages the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, which will bring our body back into balance after 20, 30, or 60 minutes, depending on how your particular body is constructed. Our heart rate slows. Our respirations become more full and deeper. We stop sweating. Our blood pressure starts to go down. Our pupils return to their normal size. And 20, 30, or 60 minutes later, we're back in balance. This is how the body handles normal danger or everyday kinds of stress. However, this year-long pandemic has caused long-term stress that can overwhelm the body's capacity to cope. It can lead to physical and emotional distress. With this kind of prolonged stressor, we begin to see symptoms in our body, some of which might be familiar to you. Our appetites aren't particularly good. We don't eat well, we lose weight. Or some of us are stress eaters and we gain weight. That's the weight that everybody seems to be calling the COVID-19. We're nauseous, we have diarrhea, stomach aches. Some of us will develop ulcers in our stomachs. We have headaches, our muscles ache, neck, headaches, all of that is enhanced, and we worry. We worry a lot. We worry about ourselves. We worry about the people we love, who's going to get sick, who's died. There's a lot of worry now, and panic states. These are all stress-induced symptoms. So what can we do about it? Usually, what we would do is go over to a friend's house and sit and have a talk, get a hug. Or we'd go over to a family member's house and have some supper together and chill. We can't do that. We've lost that kind of human comfort that we're so used to. We're isolating. We're keeping social distance, we're wearing masks, it's hard to recognize who we're looking at sometimes. We don't have that kind of comfort. So what can we do? We can learn a relaxation exercise. And I know that sounds simplistic to you. I do know that. But let me say this. When I was first learning about the autonomic nervous system, what we were taught was it was an automatically built into our body system over which we had no control. It turns on, it turns off. Years of research later, decades of research, we learned that what we can do, in fact, is modulate that part of the nervous system that gets us back into balance. We can actually learn an exercise that will give our bodies a rest from a state of stress that we're in all too often. The researcher who contributed, I think, the most to our understanding of this relaxation capability is Dr. Herbert Benson. He comes from Massachusetts, the Boston area. He was trained as a cardiologist, had all of the right credentials after his name. He's been called the pioneer of mind-body medicine. Early in the 70s, as he was working as a cardiologist, and he was a good cardiologist, he was feeling the limits of what his knowledge of Western medicine could do to help his patients be as healthy as they could be. He suspected that maybe something could be learned from Eastern medicine. So he did something that had never been done before. He went to meet the Dalai Lama and asked him for permission to take a research team to Tibet. And the Dalai Lama said, yes. So Benson and his team of researchers took all of their gear and went to Tibet to monitor monks in the mountains. It's chilly up there. Monitor the body parameters of monks while they were meditating. He was monitoring heart rate, rectal temperature, skin sweat, blood pressure. Brought all of that data back and figured out quite simply what he had seen was that the state of meditation or relaxation is physiologically and mentally the opposite of the state of stress. So he developed what's called the relaxation exercise, which I'll show you today. He took this exercise and taught it to as many of his patients as he could, asked them to practice it daily, and after a length of time, and not a very long period of time, practicing this 20-minute exercise daily, people began to see improved health. They began to understand how the relaxation exercise counteracted the harmful effects of stress on the mind and body. Dr. Benson is about 86 years old now, still working in Boston. And if you go to YouTube and type in Dr. Herbert Benson, you can watch him teaching someone how to elicit the relaxation response. My point is that while we have no control over the pandemic, we do have control over whether or not we choose to learn an exercise that can give our bodies a break from the tensions that we're experiencing. We can actually give ourselves a space to feel quiet and calm and relaxed. Let me show you this exercise. So, as we prepare for this exercise, find a comfortable chair for yourself where you're cushioned under your bottom. I always have my shoes off for this exercise so I can feel grounded. Your back will be straight but not rigid. And know that humans keep tension in the jaw. If you just simply make a space between your molars, you will release tension from many, many, many of the muscle groups in your face. Tense shoulders are always up here. We're hugely tense in our shoulders, but you'll drop your shoulders. The point of this exercise is to learn how to have an internal focus of attention. The attention will be quite simply on the breath in and on the breath out. Just the breath in and the breath out. Thoughts will come into your mind as you're doing this exercise and focusing only on breathing. Notice them, say okay, and let them float away. Don't follow them. Go back to the breath. Benson recommends picking a word for the out breath. a word that connotes peacefulness, calm, quiet inside, or a short prayer. For some people, they'll choose "The Lord is my shepherd." Borrow one of my words for today. You'll find your own if you choose to keep this practice. And just gently begin by closing your eyes. Allow your focus to begin to be on the breath. Begin with a slow, deep breath in and out. And as you breathe out, just imagine tension leaving your body through the tips of your fingers and the tips of your toes. And with your eyes gently closed and the word in your mind's eye, begin to focus on the easy breath in, your word, and the breath out. Just simply the breath in and the breath out. Your breathing will settle into its own natural, unforced rhythm. If you want, you can put a hand gently on your belly and focus on the easy rise and fall of your hand over your belly, and then go back to the breath. The easy breath in and out. The breath in, peaceful out. All your focus is quite simply on following your breath in and the breath out. Thoughts come in, let them float away. Go back to the breath. Always back to the breath. And just continue to do this. I'll be quiet for a little bit. Just continue to follow the breath in and the breath out. Gently begin to end this practice. Open your eyes, look around, notice where you are. And when you get up slowly, in case you might be lightheaded. This is my version of the relaxation response. You can watch Dr. Benson doing it on YouTube. And I would wager that everyone has between 10 and 20 minutes a day to take a breath, take a breather from the stress that we're living under. What will happen over time, if you're to do this just simply for 2 weeks, the brain will make connections between itself and the body, and suddenly you'll discover that this exercise is rote, not unlike what happens if you're learning to ride a two-wheeler. The brain and the body connect. You practice. The person who's been running behind you can let go, and you're riding that bike. Same kind of internal process happens when you learn this relaxation exercise. It's repetition over time, and you've got it. And this can be your break that improves health and well-being during hard times. Thank you very much for being with me.